Just before we get into this video, guys, a quick little bit of housekeeping. The film and TV industry is something I've wanted to break into for years now. I studied for university, getting myself a BA and MA in the subject. Sadly though, trying to find work has been next to impossible, which is why I created this, my website. It's been up for a few years now, and the idea is to try and find more work within the film and TV industry. Only you can find my portfolio, as well as my showreel and much more. All I need from you guys is to share it around as much as possible, but only if you enjoy the videos. The more you share, the more videos I will make for this channel. You don't have to be a regular viewer here, and you don't even need to subscribe, just share the website around and I'll be happy. Now, on with the video. On today's episode of my Isolation podcast, look, up in the sky, is it a bird? Is it a plane? Nah, I'm not doing that. Let's talk about Superman. Hello everyone and welcome back to an episode of My Isolation Podcast, one of the best media-related podcasts you've never heard of until right now. My name is Connor, thank you so much for tuning in, and today let's talk about Superman, or Superman 2025, or Superman 25, or James Gunn's Superman, whatever the fuck you want to call this film, but let's talk about it because it's probably the biggest film of the summer, I think. I think this is the one film everyone's been talking about these past couple of weeks. I don't think I've heard anyone talk about Jurassic World Dominion or any other film that's come out this summer, or even like films like Ballerina or the John Wick spin-off, or even like Karate Kid Legends. This is the film I think everyone's been talking about this summer. So, so I may as well throw my hat into the ring and talk about it. Fashionably late, as always, but sometimes it's good to take a few days out and let your opinions and views simmer for a little bit, and think about what you like, what you don't like, and everything. I saw this film last week, last Friday actually when it came out, but we'll go into that a little bit later on. But yeah, I really like this film overall. If that's what you came here to see, I'm not bashing it, like a lot of Snyder bots or Snyder fanboys. But before we dive into my thoughts of Superman 25, a little bit of housekeeping. Last year, I had a friend on this podcast called Dan McGee, or he has a channel of his own called Home Wanderer, which is the same name as his production company. He makes a lot of short films and everything like that. And at the time, he had a film in post-production called Buffer, which ended up coming out in October of last year, 2024. And on the podcast, it was funny because on the podcast, he was talking about how he thinks it was just going to collect, virtual dust and all that stuff. Well, that film went on to get 9.6 K viewers. So much for virtual dust. So much for virtual dust. He actually very recently had a new short film come out called A Quick Pint at the End of the World. Came out 2 days ago at the time of recording this. Unfortunately, it's only gained 57 views. And that's criminal to me because honestly, it's such a good film. It's only 8 minutes long, 8 minutes and 56 seconds. So just about 9 minutes long. And it's generally a really good film. It's a nice kind of mini post-apocalyptic movie, released around the same time as the 80th anniversary of the creation of the first atomic bomb. So it's very interesting. It's very funny. It's very witty, and it's a very British take on the post-apocalyptic genre. So I highly recommend people check it out because I think it's a really good film, and I think Dan's films deserve more attention. They deserve more love. But yeah, you should check out A Quick Pint before the end of the world because it's a very good short film, and I highly recommend it. But obviously, let's get back on track with Superman. But before we get into that, let's talk about my thoughts on the previous Superman films. I'm only talking about the films. I'm not talking about any TV shows or anything because I've barely seen any TV shows. I've barely watched Smallville or the Superman and Lois show that came out that ran 4 seasons and stuff. So I'm not talking about those. I'm just talking about particularly the Superman films that have come out theatrically. Superman 1 and 2 with Christopher Reeve, classics, absolute classics. Superman 3 and 4, trash. Superman Returns, trash. Man of Steel, trash. BVS, trash. Justice League 2017, trash. And since technically he appears in a post-credit scene at the end, Black Adam, trash. But yeah, so all out of the way right now. Overall, as I said, I really enjoyed Superman. I thought it was a great film and a great start to the DCU. James Gunn was the perfect choice for this film. He brings a lot of passion, a lot of energy, a lot of kind of childlike wisdom in a way. It's literally like watching like a child in like a sweet shop or a toy shop or something like that, just running around and grabbing whatever he sees. And I feel like that's kind of what he brought when he was writing it, where he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have this in it. I'm gonna have this in it. I'm gonna have the Justice Gang." And it's just full of this great kind of whimsy and joy and hopefulness and optimism. It's full of color and it's full of personality, and it just this film just feels like Superman. Like this is what Superman is supposed to be. This is it's not supposed to be gritty, gloomy, depressing, like dour or dim, or snapping people's necks like he was with Zack Snyder. No, like this is what Superman's supposed to be. He's supposed to be goofy, silly, lighthearted, but he's supposed to also represent the best of humanity. In a way, he has that kind of old school mannerisms of kindness and and good manners and all that stuff. Uh, and generally, and obviously, this phrase has been thrown around quite a lot ever since this film came out. But it's true. This generally feels like a comic book come to life. Like it literally feels like a comic book come to life. I don't think I've ever since the last comic book film I saw that felt like the comic had leapt onto the screen for me was probably Deadpool 2. I think that was the last time really that I felt like the humor of Deadpool and stuff was really brought to life really well and had leapt onto the screen and everything like that. I've heard people say that a lot of the scenes in this film feel like something that Jack Kirby would have drawn up in any of his comic books, and definitely it completely this film completely embraces its comic book nature. It's not embarrassed by it. Again, that's kind of another problem I had with when I rewatched Man of Steel, is that it's just kind of the same issue I had with the live action Mario Brothers movie. It felt almost like it was embarrassed by its source material, so it had to try and be kind of the big kid version, the more grown up version, so to speak. It couldn't go near its goofy, silly, like goofy, silly nature and stuff. It had to kind of go against it, like the Mario Brothers film, or like Michael Bay's Transformers films, or I guess the Michael Bay produced Ninja Turtles films, at least the first one. Anyway, felt like they kind of had to be dark and gritty and couldn't go near their goofy, silly counterparts or touch anything like that. But this one is complete opposite. Again, this one, it really did kind of embrace its comic book nature fully well. You can see it on screen. Action sequences and the dialogue and the way things are lit, the cinematography, like the color grading, it really just feel like it's grabbed its comic book like origins and it's just ran with them completely. And I've seen a lot of people compare this to the Superman animated TV show and the Justice League animated TV show, which I've never seen. But I've seen clips of it online, and I can see where they're coming from with that. There's definitely a lot of things that they borrow from it, like how Pa Kent or John Kent or John Kent, if you want, or however you want to fucking refer to him as. He doesn't die in this film, and he didn't die either in the animated show as well, as far as I'm aware. And yeah, it generally feels like it just feels like there's a lot of love here for Superman. There's a lot of care for Superman. There's it really felt like James Gunn just took everything he loved and adored about the comic books and tried cramming it all into this film. I love the fact this wasn't an origin story. They kind of did the same thing that they did with the Batman, with Robert Pattinson and Matt Reeves, where they kind of just skipped the whole origin story thing. They mentioned it in like lines of dialogue, but they never show it, and you never really get a sense of it. And because Batman is already established in that film, and this is kind of Superman's turn, because we don't need to see Superman's origin again. We've seen it twice on film, or I guess technically maybe three if you want to count the opening of Superman Returns. At least I think you saw it at the beginning of Superman Returns. I can't remember because Superman Returns was so fucking boring. I just kind of erased that film from my mind. I have not rewatched it since because it was terrible. Uh, Generally really bad. But yeah, I love the fact this was an origin story again, and Superman was already established and has been established for 3 years. We did get obviously, like text on the screen, which I thought was really clever and really a nice kind of way to quickly get people up to speed and be like, look, like metahuman's been a thing for years. They first appeared in this year. Superman made himself aware in this year. He's been around for 3 years. 3 minutes ago, he lost his very first battle, and then you see Superman crash into the snow, and he's being taken back to the Fortress of Solitude by Crypto, which I'm glad the Fortress of Solitude is back in here. And I love how it's made of crystals and everything like that, which is a great kind of imagery, great kind of imagery to see. David Cornsweet is the perfect Superman. This man is literally just Superman in real life. He not only does he look the part, but he acts the part as well, perfectly. It's not like a Henry Cavill situation where Henry Cavill he looked the part of Superman, but because of the whole like kind of more darker, more grim, more gritty and depressing kind of take, Zack Snyder wanted to go with his version. He never really felt like Superman, at least not to me. Like I like my Superman, goofy, silly, very polite and very that good kind of old fashioned nature. And that's what David Cornsweet really brought to this role. I think if Christopher Reeve was alive today, he'd be proud. He would be very proud of David Cornsweet because the way that he really does stand for truth, justice, and the American way, he embraces that and he properly represents that. Because there's a lot of Americans out there who claim to represent the truth, justice, and the American way, but they don't actually. They just represent what they think is truth, justice, and the American way. I love his humanity and his care. And this is a Superman who literally gives a shit about everyone and everything. He's saving lives. He's checking on people when he's saving them. Like when the kaiju is attacking, for example, the kaiju scene, for example, is a good one. Where he's crashing into buildings and he's asking people, "Are you guys all right? Are you okay? Do you need me to get you all out, get you evacuated?" This is a Superman who not only saves a dog but also a squirrel because he cares that much about humanity and about not just humanity but every living thing, every living creature. Yeah, but he's fighting the kaiju with along the Justice Gang as well, and he's kind of saying to them, "Look, we need to not kill this thing. We need to try and maintain it, contain it, take it to like a space zoo so it can be studied and researched and kept safe." And you just got all the Justice Line, including Mr. Terrific as well, who's just kind of like, "Me, fuck that shit," and they just straight up kill it. And he's not he doesn't overreact to it, but there's definitely a very kind of mild annoyance where he's just like, "Come on, we could have easily have taken this thing somewhere else where it could be safe and studied and all that stuff." So I really like that. I really like that with him, within him as well. And I liked how we had a bit more a Superman. I've seen people say like, "Oh, this Superman sucks. He gets his ass kicked a lot of the time." I like that. I like the fact we have a Superman who's not perfect, who gets his ass handed to him occasionally, and who struggles in a fight. I think that's really cool and very fresh and very new. We've had that quite a few times. We had that quite a few times in the Christopher Reeve films, and Man of Steel, where he was struggling quite a lot fighting Zod and the other Kryptonians in that film as well. So it's not like we've had Superman struggle before in the past. But I quite like how it wasn't just Kryptonians; it was also quite everything and everyone he's struggling to fight against. And I like the fact that he gets a lot more emotional too. Like during his interview with Lois, and he's saying, "I wasn't representing anyone except for me. People were going to die. What was I supposed to do?" And all that good stuff. And the fact that he gives himself up to the authorities, because not just because he thinks it's the right thing to do, but also he wants to, he wants to make sure that Crypto is safe. He wants to find Crypto and make sure that he's safe, even though Crypto annoys the fuck out of him in this film. Which I love Crypto as well. We'll talk about Crypto in a bit later on. But yeah, but David Cornsweet was a great Superman. I loved his version. I love the costume as well. I think when everyone first saw it, they were all hating on it. I wasn't actually hating on it. I actually liked it the moment I saw it in that first promo photo of him, the massive eyeball kind of monster. That scene as well was hilarious. I love the fact that Lois is kind of what's happening out there? Shouldn't you be with the Justice Gang? And he's like, "No, they have it. I was just looking for the dog." I really like that. I really like that scene. But yeah, man, David Cornsweet was so good as Superman, and it was a perfect Superman. This is a Superman that we need. It's a Superman that we need right here and right now. One that's full of hope, full of optimism, full of kindness. And I love the punk rock thing as well, and the fact that he's like, oh, the most punk rock that James Gunn even said, the most punk rock thing you can do is be kind to the person that needs it. And we need we need a message like that in this world at the moment, because fuck, do we need that word. We need that. We really do need that. Yeah, man, it was just so great. It was so great. Rachel Brosman, I think I called her Rachel Brosman in the last episode, which we gotta keep the tradition of me getting people's names wrong. Gotta continue it in this podcast. It's just a tradition now at this point. Gotta continue it now. But she was fantastic as Lois Lane. Such a better Lois Lane than Amy Adams. No disrespect to Amy Adams. She tried her best with the material she was given. But this is Lois Lane. This is how Lois Lane should be. This is how Lois Lane should act. A journalist who will do anything she can do to get to the truth, to look for the truth, and to get the truth out there so everyone knows what's really going on. I loved her energy. I loved how she didn't hold back, even though she was interviewing Superman or Clark Kent. Um, in the apartment scene, and you can see that Superman kind of thought she was going to go easy on him, but she doesn't go easy on him. Even though they've been dating for 3 months, she still kind of she's not hard on him, but she challenges him on his viewpoints, on his decisions, on why he interfered in the affairs of another country, on an ongoing war that has been happening for months or for years. But she even still kind of reassures him that every time she pours the thing and saying, look, like this is just how it's going to go. I really like that. I like the fact that they've been dating for 3 months. That we didn't have to go through the whole baggage of her finding out that he's Superman, and her learning guy's secret identity, and like him pretending keeping a secret from her and all that crap. No, like we just jump straight in. Like she knows who he is. She knows he's Superman. They've been dating for 3 months. It makes sense as well. I don't, and if you got someone as good of a journalist as Lois Lane, I think she is going to find out eventually that Clark Kent is Superman. And she just had a lot of great energy, a lot of great comedic timing. I love the scene where she's so frustrated at what's going on with Superman being locked up, and why is he being locked up? What's going on? What's happening? And she's like pouring like tons of sugar into her coffee, and even Jimmy Olsen is just like, dude, like that's way too much coffee, man. What are you doing? um, but yeah, she was great. Her and David had such great chemistry as well. A lot better chemistry than Henry Cavill and Amy Adams did in those films. I mean, yeah, there was a post on social media where somebody took a side by side kind of promo picture of Henry Cavill and Amy Adams as Lois Lane with David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosman's Lois Lane. And the original tweet, I think it was on Twitter, and the original tweet said, "This is why you cast off chemistry." And then somebody retweeted saying, "Read one tweet about how it looks like Cavill is delivering Amy Adams to police, and I have not been able to unsee it." And it really does look like that. But they really had the best chemistry you could have asked for. It just felt like Lois Lane and Clark Kent. It really felt that. She really did embrace Margot Kidder's enthusiasm for the role too, but also brought into her own as well. I think she was one of those cast members as well. Like the moment she was announced as Lois Lane, perfect, like literally perfect, like the perfect kind of casting you could have asked for Lois Lane. But yeah, she was fantastic. I thought she was great. Nicholas Hoult was also a really great Lex Luthor. I love this version where he's more tech kind of savvy, and I love the fact that he's just a bad guy. Like he's just a dickhead. Like that's what's so great about it. There's no tragic backstory. There's no like, oh, my father was so mean to me. Shit that he had with the Jesse Eisenberg one. No, he's just a rich dickhead. That's literally it. He's just evil, and I just love that. I miss the days when villains were literally just evil. Like we didn't have to go through all this kind of like baggage and backstory and explanation as to why they're evil. It's just no, man. Some people are just evil. So people are literally just like pure fucking evil. And I just love the fact that Lex Luthor is in this version is just that. He's literally just the purest of evil. I love his hatred of Superman, his jealousy of Superman, how he even says it's brawns over brains and stuff like that, and how Superman gets all the love and care and attention that he wishes he could get from people. But he doesn't come off as whiny or annoying. He just comes off as a kind of prick, like a stuck-up prick. And you really, what I love the most about Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor is that you really, really, really fucking hate this guy. Like you don't feel sorry for him, you don't feel pity for him. No, you just fucking hate him. you want to see his ass get kicked. And Superman never kicks his ass, but Crypto does, and it was very satisfying to see. I love the fact you just straight hated him as well. Yeah, but I love the fact you just hated this guy, and I thought that was so good about Lex Luthor. Again, there's no like you don't need he doesn't need to be layered. He doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be layered or full of like death or anything like that. He's just pure fucking evil. And you play into the kind of cartoony, comic booky, mustache twirly villain kind of thing. But I also love the fact that he can go proper psycho in like 2 seconds flat, like when he's interviewing Superman and he kind of brings in that guy at the beginning with the food cart and he shoots him in the head when he doesn't give him the answer that he wants. And it's like you're seeing like Clark's reaction to it as well was great. But just the fact that he's kind of a mustache twirly villain one moment and he can go proper psychopath the next. We also see him much more times, like when Superman breaks out of prison and he just has that massive temper tantrum. He's like screaming in pure evil, and the way he treats his girlfriend who's cheating on him with Jimmy Olsen as well. Not even for anything serious. Literally just for like posting nudes online. Like that's kind of the pity thing that he. That's how petty this Lex Luthor is. He'll just literally throw his exes in prison for like no reason, for like the pettiest of reasons. And I just love the fact again. I feel like this is the version of Lex that I feel like Jesse Eisenberg should have played in the DCEU, but I guess because the DCEU was trying to focus more on being dark and gritty, and they wanted him to be more Mark Zuckerbergy in that universe, and I just feel like that didn't really work. And it just kind of came off as more annoying than anything else. And I feel like again, this is the version that I think Jesse Eisenberg could have nailed easily, but Nicholas Hoult did such a great job of it as well. I can't imagine anyone else in this role. He's always been a great actor. I've always loved him since I saw him in the X-Men films as Beast. And yeah, I think it's perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect casting. And again, I love the fact that you just purely hated this man for like his just everything. There's everything all the shit that he pulls in this film. I just love it. Uh, Other cast members as well, like the Daily Planet gang. I liked particularly Jimmy Olsen as well. I think the actor who played him from Booksmart, he was great. Jimmy Olsen. I love his like boyish young attitude. I love the running joke of him being a ladies' man and just not knowing like why. I thought that was just hilarious. And I love the kind of affair that he has. I love the kind of dynamic he has with Sarah, who's Lex's assistant, who's like involved with and cheating. I also really enjoyed Anthony Cardigan as Rex, or Metamorpho. I thought that was really great. I thought he was a great character. And I think he got a good amount of screen time. And again, this is what's so great about this version of Superman. He just cares about everything. And the fact that he's willing to put his life at risk for this complete stranger's baby, this stranger who has spent the past few days like slowly killing him with his hand turning into kryptonite. Um, yeah, man, it was just great to see. It was just great to see, and I like the fact that he joined the Justice Gang at the end because he thought the name was cool. I thought that was just a great little running gag as well. Speaking of the Justice Gang, they were all fantastic. Nathan Fillion was great as Guy Gardner. He was such a dick. Yeah, like Lex Luthor, this guy was a fucking dickhead, and I absolutely loved it. He's just basically an overconfident jerk, and that's kind of just how you really grow to not like him, but point and laugh at him. But the standout of the Justice Gang is and always will be Mr. Terrific. He is just magnificent in this, and I'm glad that the actor who played him, I'm glad that he finally got his time to shine as just a great character. He was so funny, and he was really charming as well. I just loved his more. He was just really cool, and he was just down to earth, and he was just chilled, and he was just kind of like had this kind of like whatever, man, like kind of attitude to him, which I really enjoyed. I really loved that. I really loved that. What was it? I really loved the action sequence as well, where him and Lois are in the bubble. Well, he's got Lois in the bubble, and he's just running around, not killing people, but kind of tasering them and shocking them. I thought that was really fun. I loved the fact that the action sequence was done in one take. We'll talk more about the action in a minute, but yeah, man, it was just the cast in this film was just great. The actors that played, Martha and Jonathan Kent, they were really great in this. A lot better than the ones from Man of Steel, and they like literally felt like real parents. And I really loved their dynamic with Clark and how Clark doesn't really. You get kind of the sense that Clark doesn't really talk to him a whole lot because he's too busy being Superman, balancing Superman and his life. as Clark Kent. I really love the kind of the scenes with the both of them and the humanity that they taught him, and how his relationship with them just gets stronger by the end of the film, and you really do see that in the final scene where he's just lying down resting, and he just looking at all these old like family videos of him as a little kid, looking and them looking after him. I really love those two. I thought they were great. But let's move on from the cast and talk about the other kind of technical aspects. The color grading in this film was fantastic. It really gave off a great, goofy, silly, comic booky tone. It was just really bright and colorful. And I just thought that was perfect. I don't mind dark and gritty, but it depends on the character. Like Batman, I'm fine with Batman being dark and gritty because he is a dark and gritty character. That kind of tone suits him well. But for somebody like Superman, particularly after the disaster that was Man of Steel and the DCU and the Snyder stuff and all that crap, this is what Superman needs to be: goofy, silly, lighthearted, and fun. And it kind of and did have that, and definitely had that Guardians of the Galaxy tone to it, which I liked. It felt really warm. It felt really warm. It felt very cozy, and it kind of just fits Superman. It just like looking at this film, look how it looked, how it was bright and colorful. It just felt like Superman. It really did feel like it just reeked of Superman. And that was fantastic. I love that. It just felt like Superman, and it was so pretty to look at as well. The colors really pop as well, which is nice, and they really stand out. Which I think is great. And again, it just helps associate that more optimistic and hopeful tone that they're going with for this film. The music was fantastic. Obviously, John Williams' score, the Superman theme tune with the Christopher Reeve films, that's always going to be iconic. It just is. But obviously, John Williams didn't come and score in this one. This film was scored by John Murphy and David Fleming. And they do a good job with the soundtrack too. The original pieces of music they do is really good and very impactful with the scenes that they are in. And even like the licensed music too, like Punk Rock by the Teddy Bears, which obviously they reference the fact that Superman is a fan of the teddy bear. Well, Clark Kent's a fan of the teddy bears. In when he was talking to Lois in his apartment, which I thought was a really funny kind of work around that joke. But even like the little things where they had the different, like the motifs in there, I think they did a great job with it. The different kind of different motifs they had with it, like the big epics, and then the slower, more kind of chilled kind of motifs as well, particularly at the beginning where it's like where it's like being played on guitar and stuff. If you listen to the soundtrack of this film, you know what I'm talking about. But it was great. It was great hearing. It was great hearing that original score. Hearing that John Williams iconic score, but in different ways. Because that is kind of the score you think of when you think of Superman. But the music was perfect. Even the licensed stuff was perfect. Well, and I think what was so great about James Gunn's films is that, well, regardless if it's Guardians, Suicide Squad, or Superman, he loves his music, and he loves. I think he was saying in an interview that he likes to play music on the set, so the actors can like hear what kind of music's gonna be playing in the background of the scenes. So they can get their kind of idea of what the scenes are going to be like, which is very clever too. Like I can't really think of any other filmmakers that really do that kind of thing, or who are willing to do that kind of thing as well. Making the Guardians films must have been really fun. Like, got all the actors listening to like what kind of songs can be playing in the backgrounds of the scenes and everything like that, which is great. Like Hooked on a Feeling as well, man. Like that's I can't imagine the cast of that film having so much fun on that first film where they're listening to Hooked on a Feeling on the set. And yeah, that was great. The music was great. The music was great, man. I love the music in this film. The action in this film, though, was well terrific. To quote, not to be like punny and stuff, but it was terrific. Again, going back to the action sequence with Mister Terrific and Lois Lane, for example. Again, I love the fact that it's done in one take, but I also love the fact that, and I think John Campea brought this up when he did his discussion on this film last week, actually. I think it was last week. Yeah, I think it was either last week or this week. He basically summed it up perfectly when he said that all other filmmakers would have just shaken the camera to try and like get this weird like shaky cam shit, which I've always hated. That's one of the reasons why I've never gone back and rewatched Batman Begins, because all the shaky cam action sequences, and it's just like distracting and really quite. It's just distracting and it's just not pleasant to look at. I think move on to like the Dark Knight, and the action sequences are like actually big and wide lens and a wide shot, so you can actually see what's going on in the action sequences. So they learned as they went along, which was nice of them to do. But yeah, there was no shaky cam or anything like that, which was really nice. Uh, and but also action sequences as well, like the action sequence that with the kaiju, the action sequence at the beginning when he crash lands, he's got to go back to Fortress of Solitude. Action sequence in the Fortress of Solitude with where Crypto is being a good boy defending Superman's fortress while he's away, and all that stuff. I think the action sequences overall were really great and and just fantastic. And they were big, they were bold, they're really impactful as well. You really could feel like every punch and every kick that was being either Superman was taking or Superman was giving, which I really liked. And I think the kind of Foley effects and the sound effects they used as well kind of really helped you feel that impact of the action. The action sequence at the end was kind of my favorite as well, particularly when he's fighting off against Ultraman, which wasn't really a big twist that it was going to be a clone of Superman. I think that was leaked a while ago. I think the debate was mainly, is it going to be David Cornsweet or is it going to be like a Henry Cavill cameo? But it ended up being David Cornsweet, and that kind of made more sense. I don't think could have made sense, because it being Cavill because the pocket universes and all that shit. But no, like it was David Cornsweet, and that was fine. I liked when he just flat out just shoved Ultraman into the pocket universe, and that was really fun. And then I just loved like again the other actions, like when his like goons, when his henchmen are coming up to fight Superman. He's like, "Good luck with that," and he just flies and just beats the shit into all of them. But yeah, no, the action was terrific. But James Gunn's always been good with action sequences ever since the first Guardians film. He's always had a way of making them impactful and meaningful and really on the edge of your seat stuff too. I really sound so cliche saying that, but it really was like edge of your seat kind of things. You're watching and you're like, oh god, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? You couldn't, and it felt new. It felt, I don't know what it was, but these action sequences just felt new and felt fresh. It wasn't like Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom where I was watching these action sequences and I was like, I've seen that before. I've seen that done before. I've seen this done before. It just felt like it, and again, like maybe I had seen these done before, but it felt like it was done in a new, fresh kind of way to really shake things up, without shaky cam. I feel like the overall theme of this film for me was kind of focusing on Superman's humanity and just kind of wanting to be human, which I really liked and was very showing. Scenes. Again, the scene with him and Park Kent on the porch and just talking and him saying to him, your actions, your words, that's what makes you who you are. And it kind of brought him closer together with his human parents, which I actually loved Clark Kent in this film. I think I love the Big Mush. Do not kill off the Big Mush. Don't kill. I know you can kill him off in the sequel, maybe, but don't kill off the Big Mush. Keep the Mush. We need the Mush. We need that Big Mush to stay alive for the rest of this Superman trilogy and the DCU. So yeah, man, I love that scene. I love and again, it really does bring out the overall theme of him wanting to be human, and feeling human and kind of accepting his humanity in a weird way, and him like he wanted to know his birth parents and he wanted to get to know them. But then when he found out what his birth parents were really asking of him, which I really liked that twist as well. I kind of liked how we kind of took a spin on Jor-El's overall message to him and kind of saw it in in a more slightly negative kind of light, which I thought was really interesting and kind of a new way to take it. I think if you did the whole, because we've seen the whole Jor-El like speech thing, done in a more positive way multiple times, and I feel like maybe doing one where he's a bit more negative, when it's a bit more make a little bit more negative, could be, I think would be a bit more interesting to see, particularly down the line as well, when we could get like when we see all the DCU versions of General Zod, if we are going to get Zod at some point, and he challenges Superman on his authority and his morals as well. I think that could be really cool. And I like the fact that they didn't retcon that whole thing with Jor-El, and Kara. They kept it in, and they didn't go back on it as well. And the impact of that kind of theme as well, with Lex wanting to ruin Superman's reputation. He wants to ruin Clark's reputation. He wants to basically fuck up Clark's life, because he hates him for no reason. Well, he hates. There's a reason, but it's weak as fuck, and that's kind of the whole point of it. But yeah, I really liked the theme of him wanting to be human and kind of accepting his humanity and and kind of embracing his humanity too. I really love that speech at the end where he's saying to Lex, "You've always been wrong about me. I get scared, I fail, I mess up all the time, but I don't know what to do, but I wake up and I put one foot in front of the other, and that's what makes me human. And I love that about it. I loved how it's him taking a stance and embracing his human parents and the morals that they've taught him, and the good manners that they taught him, and being proud of that. I really love that about this Superman. You kind of got that with the Christopher Reeve ones, but this one really does home in on it. And I love the fact that Lex's hatred for him and also other metahumans as well could be seen as, kind of discriminatory in a weird way. Because again, we are focusing a bit more on Superman being an immigrant. We're focusing more on him being an immigrant, a literal alien that crash landed from outer space and kind of visited our planet and did all these good things for humanity and everything like that. And obviously Lex even says, I hate the metahumans, but I hate Superman even more. And his reasoning for it is just pathetic, and which is kind of the whole point. It's supposed to be pathetic. It's supposed to be petty. It's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to be one of those things where you look at it and you just think, dude, you are fucking petty for hating Superman because he gets more attention than me. That's his whole reason, and that's kind of the point of it. It's supposed to be petty. It's supposed to be pathetic, in a sense. And I love the fact that he can be seen as like him discriminating against Superman because he is an immigrant. He came from outer space. He didn't come from human. He wasn't born from Earth. He was born on another planet. And I love the fact he focused a bit more on his immigration. I know that the conservatives did not like that, and particularly the alt-right grifter woke babies who cry woke every 10 minutes because if they don't, they're not going to pay their rent. But fuck them. Fuck them. If you just want to film Superman fucking shit up, go rewatch Man of Steel, which is a film that is terrible, has nothing to say. This is a film that had at least something to say about Superman and his more immigrant kind of backstory. I was really shocked that Dean Cain, an actor who literally played Superman, was calling this film woke and all that stuff when there was literally an episode of The Adventures of Lois and Clark. Or Lois, was it Lois and Clark or Lois and Superman? I don't even remember the title. It was too fucking long. Where they literally question his immigration in one episode. Like he literally gets visited by, I believe, the immigration officers in the city, and they're like, "Oh, you don't have a green card. You're grounded until we sort this all out." And it's like, he is immigrant, and I'm glad that we're focusing more on that. The war backdrop as well, I thought was a nice touch. Again, really focused on Superman's humanity and how he didn't want people to die. And I really love, all the good sequences where he needs to go and save them, but he also needs to go and save Metropolis because obviously the pocket universe that Lex is opening is getting wider and bigger. So he sends the Justice Gang over, and you get that really lovely scene of the kids holding the flag and just begging for Superman to show up and save him like he did before. And it just shows that he cares. He really does care for humanity. He really cares for these people. And he even says to Lois, "Look, I wasn't representing anyone. I was representing me and doing good. And people were going to die. What was I supposed to do? Just stand there and not do anything?" And you really do. And you really see that with the war backdrop and everything like that, which I really enjoy. Supergirl's cameo was really nice as well, really funny. I loved how Crypto was her dog and not Clark's, which makes a lot of sense because Clark. I think Clark. Superman loves Crypto really, but he definitely annoys the fuck out of him with him constantly like jumping around and wrecking things and having this destructive attitude because Supergirl doesn't have give him any boundaries. She's more of a party girl. I really can't wait for a film next year. I love the poster for it and how they kind of pun off the look up tagline, and instead of look up, it's look out. I think that's really cool, and I can't wait to see what that's about. It'll be interesting to see Jason Momoa back again as well, but this time as Lobo, as a villain, which I think would be really cool. Talking about Crypto, let's talk about Crypto for a little bit because I've not talked about Crypto yet. He was a great character. I know he was all completely CGI and all that stuff, but I guess for this film, I'm not really a big fan of CGI animals. I'd rather get try and get actual animals as much as possible. I know that's really difficult because you got to train them and everything like that, and safety for them, everything like that in certain films. But I think for this film, I can let it slide because of all the kind of impossible stuff that Crypto's doing. You kind of need a CGI dog for that. Unfortunately, you do need a dog to be CGI, and to be fair, it's really good CGI. He looks very real. He acts very real. I'm very happy it was based on an actual dog, James Gunn's actual dog, which he calls the worst dog in the world, very affectionately, according to David Cornsweet. He was great. He was so cute as well, and he was just my love for dogs as well is nice. I really love the end credit scene where, mid credit scene where him and Superman just chilling on the moon. He's hugging Crypto, and they're spending nice quality time together and all that stuff. And I love Crypto in the final fight as well. How he became, and how he's playing like in the Pocket universe. He's playing around with Terrifics, like little toy gizmo, like not toy gizmos, but little gizmos. They thinks are toys. I think that he thinks there's like the kind of balls going around that he's chasing after him, and then he goes after Lex's kind of cameras because they're kind of the same shape. And he's like, Crypto, get the toy. And, Crypto, being a good boy that he is, Crypto, he helps Clark out and everything like that. And I love the fact that he defends Fortress of Solitude. And, what Lex does to him is really awful, man. And, that's another thing why I hate Lex. He tortures a dog. You can torture Superman, but you can't torture a dog, man. Like, that's where you go too far. Leave dogs alone. Support your dogs. Love your dogs, man. Hug your dogs. Show them some love. Don't take them for granted. Dogs are wonderful. I fucking love dogs. And speaking of which, the end credit scenes were really lovely too, and I'm glad they weren't like advertisements for the next film. I think James Gunn was saying that he kind of wanted to avoid that unless it's like mega important. But I was really glad that that James Gunn kept them as like little jokey kind of things. Like the first one being a lovely, sweet thing of Superman and Crypto chilling on the moon together, and then you had the Superman kind of criticizing a building being put back together uh in the in the end credit scene. And Mr. Eric's just like, oh, I'm sorry it's not perfect. And then Superman is like being the more polite kind of shucks person that he is in this film. He's kind of like, oh golly, I'm such a jerk sometimes. I love this Superman. I love the fact he's got that attitude, and the lines that he says in this film. Where he's like, "What the heck, dude? I thought well, you've destroyed the whole place." And all that stuff. And he says words like he actually says words like "golly," which I didn't think would ever get in a Superman film ever again. One last positive I'll say before we get into the minor negatives of this film: the pacing was really great. I think a lot of superhero films nowadays do feel quite long and quite dragged out at certain points. And there's definitely been a few superhero films I've seen that I've just been like, "Oh God, we in this already." It like again rewatching Man of Steel, like you definitely get to that point where you're just like, "Fucking hell, can we end this already?" Or with BVS, because that film was supposed to be 3 hours long and they had to cut it down to two, and it still felt it was just slowly paced. But I really liked the pacing in this film. It didn't feel like it was 2 hours. It moved quite quick, and I was happy about that. I'm glad. I like superhero films that move at a much quicker pace. I think I don't mind superhero films that take a slower kind of approach. Sometimes you need them, like the Batman, and I guess the first Joker film too. You kind of needed that, but again, I much prefer when super films are a bit more faster paced, and I quite like the pacing in this film. Let's get into the negatives of this film. The humor in this film was pretty good overall. There were times when it did get a bit too much. Like other people complain about this too, where you have this big emotional, impactful moment, and then it gets interrupted by a joke or something humorous. That happens maybe a bit too often in this film. But even then, like it's not too not it didn't ruin it for me personally, and a lot of the humor I found quite funny too. But so it didn't really ruin it for me all that much. And it definitely didn't reach like certain other superhero films that have had too much humor to the point where they feel more like spoofs than actual serious films. I do think as well, like I love the fact it embraced its more comic book nature, but I do think there's a chance it could potentially alienate some casual viewers because it doesn't really hold your hand with anything. It kind of like throws you in completely and kind of hopes that you already know a lot about Superman's lore and backstory and stuff. Well, not backstory because they explain that in the opening title scroll, which is nice. But I think like other certain elements too. I think they hope that you already know it as well, because this is a world where superheroes already exist, and it's not just Superman 2. It's other people like Justice Gang and other superheroes like the other Green Lanterns that will pop up soon, and Peacemaker and all that stuff, and all the other metahumans too. Which I do enjoy. I do quite like that we've already in a world where superheroes already exist, and we have to like completely build up to multiple heroes existing. They just exist in this world, which is nice. But again, like I'm a casual viewer. Like I don't really know comic books that too well. I'm pretty sure people have already noticed that in these videos, in these podcasts. But even then, like I didn't feel alienated, and I felt pretty alright. I felt like I could follow things, so maybe it's not like too big of a problem. And I guess some of the CGI felt a bit wonky at certain places, but it didn't. Again, that didn't really distract me all that much. Little bits of CGI felt a bit wonky, but apart from that, it seemed fine. I didn't really notice it all that much, to be honest. So overall, Superman was a fantastic, amazing, wonderful, optimistic, hopeful, and kind summer blockbuster. This is a summer blockbuster that I think everyone needs to go see. Everyone needs to check out. It's a great start to the DCU. I cannot wait to see more of the DCU now. I cannot wait to see Peacemaker season 2, because I know season 1 was set in the DCU, season 2 set in the DCU. And watch the other TV shows like the Lantern TV show and stuff like that, and the other movies they've got like Supergirl. When they eventually get round to doing the Batman, the Brave and the Bold, when they figure out what direction they want to go in with that. I'm still against the whole idea of Rob Pattinson's version being merged with it. Like this, that won't work. That's not going to work. Stop asking for it. It's not going to work. It'll be a complete tonal whiplash if that happens. We cannot have the ultra grounded Robert Pattinson like Batman like mixing with the more fantasy elements of David Cornsworth's Superman. Like we need a Batman that can fit well in this fantasy universe. He can still be dark and still be gritty, but we need more fantastical elements like the Bat Tumbler and the uh, like amazing kind of gadgets and stuff like that. And the more fantasy like villains too, like Clayface. I know doing a Clayface film for I think it's set in the Batman universe and stuff, but yeah, I'd rather they just do something fresh and something new, and keep Rob Pattinson's Batman separate. But yeah, overall, great summer blockbuster. Go check it out when you can. It's great. It's wonderful. I love this movie so much. Out of 5, give it a 4. Out of 10, I give it an 8. Amazing film. Go see it when you can. It is absolutely wonderful, fantastic. It's all that good. Also, it's all the good words. It's all the good words that I cannot think of to to say. It's a great film. Just go watch it when you can. It is fantastic. And that is it, everyone. So until next time, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you whenever I see you next.